Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.
The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Welcome to the Spark File, where we believe that everyone is creative, but smart creative people don't go it alone.
I'm Laura Camian.
And I'm Susan Blackwell. If you're an OG listener, welcome back, little Sparkly. If you're joining us for the first time, you should know everybody's welcome here.
Whether you've put your creativity on hold during this time or you've clung to it like a lifeline, either way, welcome.
But you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a Spark File? Hey, where do I get one? What do I file in it? These are such good questions, and we actually do have an answer.
A Spark File is a place where you consistently collect all your inspirations and fascinations.
If you're meeting us for the first time, you should know that we are makers and we make all kinds of things.
If you are anything like us and you're making stuff all the time or want to be making stuff all the time, you already know that the wellspring of inspiration can run a little dry, especially now.
But don't despair, because we are on the lookout for fresh ideas, images, and inspiration that spark our creativity and pique our curiosity, things that inspire us to get up off of our asses and make things like this podcast.
Or a weekly date involving hearty laughs and healthy competition.
Yeah, what she said.
Yeah, what I said. Every episode, we're going to reach into the Spark File and exchange some sparks. And from time to time, we're going to talk to some folks who spark us too.
And if you're not careful, you might just have some hearty laughs and healthy competition. That's what we call a callback, Laura. So without further ado, let's open up
the Spark File.
Welcome, listeners. Welcome, friends.
Hi,
new and
listeners.
old. Hey, listeners.
Hey, everybody. We're in the midst of a little experiment here.
This is the experiment, the Spark File experiment part 2.
Yeah, wherein we separate our two sparks because of the depth and the length of our previous spark from last week, which, you know, we went deep on that.
She was a monster spark.
Today may be a little bit lighter. It might be a little lighter, but I'm going to spark you.
I know you are. I'm excited.
I know.
I'm going to sit back. I'm going to relax. Hope everybody had a really, really good holiday weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the time this podcast drops, you're going to be like, what did I do for the holiday? So forget I said all that. Anyway.
Now I can't forget it. See, that's the thing about the brain. Once you say, like, don't think about that.
I have a thing.
Yeah.
My brain has this thing, and I've had it since I was a child. When a teacher or a speaker says something along the lines of, if there is one thing that you take away from this talk, this class, this reading, whatever it is, the thing that I want you to remember is this. I can't remember what comes next, but what I remember is them saying, if there's one thing, that's what I remember.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm very similar. And I'll be like, I'll play that over and over again and think,
What
this time,
came
the
next?
rest of the sentence is going to fill in.
Yep.
All right, Suze, I'm going to just jump in and tell you, I'm going to tell you about my spark.
Spark it up, Sparky.
Are you ready?
Yes.
So when I was in college, my friend Tim introduced me and the entire theater department to the game of Canasta.
Oh.
If you are not familiar, Canasta is a card game. More specifically, it's an old ladies card game. It was at the time, even then, and it certainly is now. But that didn't stop us from taking this game very seriously. We played this game like we were playing Texas Hold'em. Like we were so serious. I would get a call at like 2 a.m. with a voice on the other end saying it's on. And I would bounce out of bed. I would get dressed and get over there to play some cards.
Whoa.
We would have weekend tournaments, multiple tables going on at the same time. It was legit.
Wow.
And I totally loved it.
Now, we talked about this recently on the podcast because I asked you, do you ever play for money? And you got this crazy twinkle in your eye and you were like, I'd like to. You're such a fucking shark. It's funny because you're such a sweet, sweet sweetie, but you are a shark when it comes to these card games.
The number of times that I have like played with people and they're like, but I thought you were so nice. And I'm like, do not mistake my niceness for weakness. Let us be clear. I don't know. I've been accused of transforming into another person when I play cards. I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
Do you do it all with a big smile on your face though? Because my image of you is that you have a big smile and then you lay down that winning hand and you're like, boop, boop. But do you ever like lose the smile and you just become a dick? Like a straight ahead dick?
That's the thing. Like, listen, we could have some guests on the podcast who might be like, yeah, she's a dick. But I don't think that I am ever a dick. But one of the joys of card playing is like it's not an insult, but you can like really poke a person with a particular discard to a person.
Because you know it's gonna hobble them. So you're just like shabap.
Like, I know what card you need most right now. And now you know that I know because I just discarded it to you and you can't do a thing about it. Like, it's really like, I find that to be very humorous.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
what
subtext.
You do it with a great big smile on your face.
I do. I just think it's all very, very funny and very enjoyable to me. And there are people that I know who take great pleasure in playing with me because they want to do that to me. They're like, I don't know why, Laura, but I just love to like I love to discard this and be like, and here's an FU to you. And I don't know. It's joyful. It's joyful to me, but something does take over. I'm not exaggerating. I know it's there. Everybody notices it, but I don't know. I'm super focused and I'm having so much fun. Like I'm never so serious that I forget that it's just a game. But something about me also inspires people to like want to beat me. And I get that too. And so I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can take it, but it's a game.
I love it.
So needless to say, the chemistry of the group of people that you play with is really, really important. And everybody needs to be on the same page about these things. And they aren't always, which is another thing that I find to be really humorous and interesting in terms of like human dynamics. Like, people aren't always on the same page.
People get real upset, don't they? When you look like a gleeful little leprechaun and they get really upset.
They'll get really upset. People will like feel something, but then blame it on someone else, typically me. They'll like, I've been in the situation where they're like, it's that she played she's just so happy about winning. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I don't know what it is, but
wow.
But people's like, it brings stuff up. It triggers things. So I find it all to be endlessly entertaining. I'm making myself sound like a real dick, aren't I?
No, I love this. It brings out a side of you. I'm watching you as you share this. Look at you. It brings out this side of you that I'm like, we should play cards every day because look how you're so happy. And it is probably, I don't know what the word is, but the most nefarious part of you. Or the mischievous. It is the most mischievous.
Oh, yeah. It is. It totally brings out the
most mischievous.
Most mischievous. Yeah, I enjoy it. And so this team of people I've got to shout out, like Tim and Scott are my OG Canasta teammates from college. Travis, Santucci, if you guys are listening, Michael Brennan. Such fond memories of all of them. But more recently, Bryn, Kat, Casey, Nancy have all been card fellows. Yeah, you name-checked them
recently.
That is right. That's right. I'm grateful to all of them. And I couldn't possibly do the Spark without mentioning their names.
When you play Canasta, because I don't know, and I don't want to jump your Spark, but are you playing in teams or is it every person for themselves?
You play teams. Yeah.
Do you have a go-to team member that you like to play with?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say because I wouldn't want to hurt it. I genuinely wouldn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
But do you?
More often than not, yes, of course I have favorites. But more often than not, teams are determined by who wants to play against me so they can beat me. That's what it seems like in my life that I've attracted.
Are you really good? Are you really good at Canasta?
I mean, Suze, what an uncomfortable question.
I'm not bad. Pridefulness is a sin.
I'm not bad.
Oh,
I'm not bad, but I don't know.
The people that you're playing with,
yeah,
you might rise to the top. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I think with
when I hear people want to beat you, that means that like you're the king of the mountain or the queen of the mountain.
It's not just that. It's not that simple.
Oh, it's also your energy. It's this energy.
They take joy out of yes.
Well, that's fun.
I would say I have met my mischievous partner, like my nemesis. There is someone who enjoys beating me, not because I'm the best.
Names.
Bryn Baudier.
Oh, Bryn Baudier. You almost gave the middle name. Bryn.
If I knew it, I would give your
Xavier.
I would give her.
Baudier.
Yeah, but she is equally mischievous. Equally a card shark. She's probably better than I am at the game. But she only wants to play against me. She does not want to be on my team. She wants to be the person discarding to me so that she can have the pleasure. I enjoy it though because she is a formidable opponent and yeah, she's worthy.
There's some respect there. I like it.
Total respect. It's all, if anyone out there knows the game of Canasta, you know how like ridiculous it is that there's even this much around it. But I'll tell you more. For those who are not in the know, I'll tell you more because I learned more about it recently. As you know, I was up at Dale Hollow Lake with Wes's family recently.
Right, the most haunted lake in America. Yep.
So fun. And this year we spent the days on the lake. And then in the evening, oh my God, Suze, you know what this did to my heart. In the evening, the kids would come by our cabin and ask if we could play Canasta. I mean, my heart.
Kids, like teenagers?
10 to 20 to, 25.
Everybody
kids,
knows everybody. I don't know how to play this game.
Well, I taught them. So, my heart grew like 10 sizes when they're like, can we play Canasta?
You're like a Fagin and you're going to get these kids hustling for money and they're going to kick back up to the top to you.
That is an idea, Suze. That's real idea. But right now we're in the phase where they just want to beat me. See what happens? I don't even know what I do. But it was very fun to play with them. They noticed things about me that I was like, hey, they were like, have you noticed when Aunt Laura doesn't like what you've played, she'll say, interesting.
Oh.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm busted.
You just broadcasted your tell right here on this podcast.
Well, I've already shifted it because that can't stand. But I did I definitely did that over the course of the Dale Hollow Lake. So anyway, it brought me a lot of joy and this was top of mind for me because we had so much fun doing it. And I thought it is long overdue for me to share the spark of Canasta with you.
This is so fucking fun. This is so, I feel like lately, and for good reason, we've been doing some kind of like more like
heavy hitting, deep.
Like, like deep sparks. Not always, but like this is the pause that refreshes.
Let this be a palate cleanser before we dive back into some deep things. But this is, thank you. I'm glad you're having fun because I had fun doing this. I learned so much.
I'm having fun
about
watching
the game.
You. Like this is the most happy I've seen you.
I'm squirming so much.
Months.
Like when you ask me, like, am I good at the game? Like, I don't know why I just I was squirming in my chair.
Oh,
all right. Listen, first of all, for this spark, I went in search of the history of Canasta because the provenance of the game in my life was simply like, do you like that word?
Somebody learned a big word during your recent spark.
I learned it during that spark of Made You Look documentary.
That's right.
So the provenance of Canasta for me was simply like, it must have been Tim's mom or Tim's grandma. Like I had no idea how far it went back from there. So I did a little investigating, and what I found, Susan, was the story of an underdog, a long shot, overcoming impossible odds.
What do we make of this? I'm already like, well, it's a film. It's a feature film. It's Oscar bait.
Let me tell you, it may be a Christopher Guest-esque film, but yes, it is. Like there's definitely a film in here. So I found a story of an underdog, a long shot, overcoming impossible odds to find its way into the homes and the hearts of millions of people around the world. But could it topple the card-playing establishment? We'll see. Let me set the stage for you. In the late 1800s, a card game called Bridge began to gain loyal followers. And by the early 1900s, Bridge had emerged as the world's most popular card game. The Hartford Bridge Club in Connecticut was founded in 1931 and still exists today. By the 1940s, bridge was played in 44% of American homes. There were popular bridge personalities, literally household names, famous bridge card players. In one particular, Eli Culbertson was called Mr. Bridge and eventually went on to be named to the Bridge Hall of Fame when it was created. So here in the United States, it's the 1930s. Bridge is everywhere. It is the unquestioned superior card game of them all. But around this same time, in Uruguay, 1939, an attorney named Segundo Sanchez was a member of an elite bridge club called the Jockey Club. According to an article in the Games Journal, the custom there was to relax with a game of cards before dinner with associates. But Segundo found it hard to stop playing after just an hour or two. And on most nights, he kept it up for 6 hours. In the morning, he felt dull and mentally exhausted. And it eventually dawned on him that he was working 2 shifts, one in the office and one at the club. And this might have been having a negative effect on his career. So he arrived at a moment of truth. He asked himself, am I an attorney or a bridge player? He decided on the former. Though he continued to go to the Jockey Club for dinner, he got the idea to create a game that might be a bit lighter and more fun for him. A combination of bridge, rummy, and another popular rummy variant.
Wow.
I know, right?
This is amazing that, I mean, my mind does not work in this way, but it is amazing to me. Of course, these cards didn't even exist at one point, but these games didn't exist at one point. Somebody had to have the spark, follow through and make them up. And it's amazing that you know who that is.
I mean, I didn't before, but I sure do now. And and as you'll see in the course of the spark, like, how does something even become popular? You know, just a game that you play with your friends doesn't mean it's going to take over the world.
And again, I don't want to jump your spark, but it doesn't seem like it's the type of thing that would be monetized. It's the type of thing that maybe the rules would be printed in a publication or something like that. And then
Just you wait.
It would make it. Oh my gosh!
But you can't copyright it. Yeah, you can't copyright a game.
it.
So
it's all for the pleasure of it in a way.
In a way,
and maybe the legacy.
But we're gonna dive a little deeper into that. So hold that thought.
This is fucking fun.
So he enlisted his partner. Segundo Sanchez enlisted his partner, Alberto Serrato, to help him, and they eventually created a new game. Again, according to the game's journal, even before the name was determined, the name of the game itself was spreading like wildfire within the Jockey Club, then throughout the city of Montevideo, and then up the coastline of Uruguay. It just so happened that some Argentinians who were vacationing in Uruguay took the game back to their country, where it managed to chase bridge out of their prestigious Club de Bridge. I mean, a Club de Bridge gave up bridge to play Canasta. Then it jumped to Chile and to Peru and to Brazil. The epidemic was now a continental affair, but not yet in the United States. Why? Most likely because of the Second World War. With airline service largely suspended in the late 30s and early 40s, Canasta had to wait until after the war was over before anyone up north would come in contact with it. But Susan, a war could not stop the popularity of this game. It just slowed it down a bit. Eventually, a woman named Josephine Artillate del Valle traveled to New York from Buenos Aires. She introduced it to her New York friends, and the game took over the Regency Club in Manhattan. And that is how the Canasta boom began in the United States.
How hard is it to learn this game? Is it easy to learn?
I think so. I think it's pretty, the
10-year-olds could learn it?
The 10-year-olds could learn it. I wouldn't say they have yet mastered the nuances of all of it, but they have, they got it to the point where they could enjoy it. And they, yes.
I think that's one of the reasons it could expand so rapidly, is because if it's one of those things that you can learn the basics of it and then just continue to master it, that would be fun.
And I do think, though, that it is, like I said, this combination of bridge and rummy, both were popular games. So if you understand those concepts, for sure. But that's how Canasta, the boom of Canasta began in the United States. But how did this little card game that could fare in the United States? Could it compare to the Goliath that was bridge? The answer to this question is revealed in this fabulous article that I found, which was written in 1952 in Maclean's magazine, titled "When Canasta Was the Craze." Now listen, Suze, time travel with me for a minute. We're jumping ahead to 1952. But keep in mind, when Canasta was the craze, it's referring back just 5 years to 1948 when the game took over in the United States. Had our hero's time already come and gone? Let's find out. Here is an edited version of the article. I'd like to read it for you now. When Canasta Was the Craze by James Dugan. I was recently leafing through the crumbling pages of an old newspaper file, marveling at the passing fads and follies of ourselves when younger, and a strange headline turned up that brought a chuckle of reminiscence. Canasta, Argentine rummy game sweeps country. It brought back the atmosphere of those vanished years, pyramid clubs, 60-cent butter, existentialism, and Shirley May France, the girl who almost swam the English Channel twice. Remember Canasta? It seems like only yesterday. It was the year of Woody Woodpecker, Nature Boy, and Slow Boat to China. Barbara Ann Scott skated into the headlines. We wondered what bebop was and what happened to the new look. Gandhi and Babe Ruth were alive. Truman called for a $40 per capita tax cut. But of all the fleeting marvels of that year, 1948, Canasta was easily the nuttiest. Millions abandoned the game of bridge while Canasta raged. Students of crowd manias and extraordinary popular delusions had seen nothing like it since Mahjong and Monopoly. It seemed worthwhile to this student to retrace the history of Canasta, lest the phenomenon be lost to sociology. And so I have spent months interviewing old timers with total recall and poring over contemporary accounts to reconstruct the game. Canasta is the Spanish word for basket. The game came from rummy, an ancient game of cards. The word rummy is Old English for queer, and the joker, the key card in Canasta, means fool. Canasta originated among Uruguayan peasants, possibly 100 years ago. Sometime in the 1940s, Argentine society people wintering in Uruguay found Canasta at the Montevideo Jockey Club and took it back to Buenos Aires. North American tourists learned it in Argentina and carried the epidemic to New York circa 1947. Some of those infected got into the Regency Club, a fashionable card pit in the New York's Upper East Side. But we knew all of this already. So here's where we pick up. The assistant manager of the Regency, a white-haired lady named Ottilie H. Riley, noted that the Canasta players spent most of their time brawling over the rules, which none of them quite knew. To restore order in the joint, Mrs. Riley set out to discover the rules. She happened to meet a cultivated Argentine named Alejandro Rosa, who was an interpreter at the United Nations. Senor Rosa imparted the basic laws of Canasta, and 6 days later, in August 1948, Mrs. Riley published a 4-page rule book, the first treatise on the game. According to our author, given some fine points to fight over, Canasta spread like the pestilence. The time was right. Gin rummy, the previous card fad, was declining everywhere but in Hollywood. Canasta came to town like the circus. It was the looniest of all rummy games. You needed 2 decks to play it. 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 contestants could give combat. It had as many wild cards as poker in the girls' room, as many emotional climaxes as a soap opera, and you made scores as high as on a pinball machine. Sensing an opportunity, Mrs. Riley sat down into heavy production of Canasta books to meet the thirst for clearly defined rules.
Oh my gosh.
Suze, here I came upon my favorite sentence in the whole article. Canasta afforded fine opportunity to indulge in weakness of character, including gluttony, ingratitude, treachery, and barratry. Suze, what does that say about me? I feel shame.
What's barratry?
I had to look up the word barratry. It means vexatious litigation or incitement to it.
Dickishness.
To the extent of, I want to sue you. I will take you to court over this. I mean, what does this say?
Oh my God. Barratry, like the bar. Like the bar. Like the legal bar. Oh my gosh.
That's right. And here's where I'll give you a quick overview of the game as written in this article from 1952.
Okay.
The 4-player version begins with 11 cards dealt to each player. The remaining 64 cards deposited in a stack at the center of the table.
Because you're using 2 decks.
That's right.
Okay.
Players then look through their hands like little kids going through popcorn boxes to see what prizes they got. The object of the game is to meld all the cards in your hand by making canastas. A canasta is 7 cards of the same denomination, which can be boosted by no more than 3 wild cards per canasta. There's 12 wild cards in circulation, the deuces and 4 jokers. There's also, this is the article I'm reading from, there's also a cute thing called the freeze. A wild card chucked into the discard pile prevents anyone from picking up the pile until they can show a pair that matches the top card. A sly player with a big hand could salt the discard pile with stoppers and wild cards, forcing others to deposit their own wild cards until the pile resembled a Dagwood sandwich. Then Mrs. Slyboots would flash a concealed pair in her hand and sweep up the stack. And Suze, that's exactly it. He captures like the thrill of picking up the deck. It gets like really big. Tensions get very high. You're sweating. You're just like, having a discard, like defense is as important as offense, right? So having a discard is as vital as what you actually play on the table.
And I'm just amazed you did a callback to a prior episode.
Dagwood sandwich.
Come on.
I giggled when you said it because I knew that it was also in my Spark. What are the
And
odds
how
of
many
Dagwood
times do we say
sandwich?
Dagwood sandwich?
Not enough, I think. Not enough.
Not enough. Let's bring it back.
From now on, Dagwood
I bet there are people
sandwich,
right now, just for the people who don't know, to save you a Google, Dagwood was a cartoon character in comic strips in the newspaper. Remember those?
Remember
Hard
that?
edition and print copy edition. And Dag would like to make these great big tall sandwiches that were just like layer after layer on top of layer on top of layer. And you'd have to like put a toothpick with an olive just to like
To
pierce it, to hold it all together. That's what a Dagwood sandwich is.
Oh, God. So, yes.
This we really sound like a couple of nanas. Good
We
Lord.
do. We do. And we're talking about Canasta and Dagwood sandwiches.
Sunday comics and yes, okay.
Okay, so remember Mrs. Riley, who is writing a book about the laws
I sure
of
do.
Canasta playing?
This is how you monetize a game like this.
Here's how you monetize. So Mrs. Riley, this is from the article. Mrs. Riley traveled up and down the land like an old-time circuit judge enforcing Canasta laws. Mrs. Riley sold out 4 more books on Canasta, one of which reached 220,000 copies.
Wow.
Oswald Jacoby, a famous bridge player, wrote a $1 book called How to Win at Canasta, which was the 5th best-selling book of 1949.
What? Do you have that book?
No, but I found it on eBay.
Well,
But I haven't bought it yet. Jacoby traveled the country giving lecture demonstrations in department stores, making up to $1,000 a week during the height of the Canasta craze. Meanwhile, back at the Regency Club in New York City, Mrs. Riley taught Canasta to Herbert Hoover, Eliza Maxwell, and Pearl Mesta. I'd never heard of Mrs. Mesta, but Mrs. Mesta was apparently then a leading hostess in Washington, D.C. She soon had this game going on in political and diplomatic quarters. And when she went off to Luxembourg as a U.S. ambassador, she spread the game everywhere she went. Paris, Britain, Sweden, etc.
This is like the earliest influencers.
That
Seriously.
is so true. This is how it happened.
Yeah.
That's how a card game called Canasta swept not only our nation, but several other nations. And here we are 80 years later playing this game thanks to them. Now, you know, I looked up the Regency Club, Suze.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
have you been to the Regency?
I have not. It is still located on East 67th Street. Although I do feel like when I saw a picture of it, it looks familiar, but I can't imagine. It's a private club specifically for cards. So although I have been to some of those membership clubs, I don't think I've been to the Regency Club. I would have remembered that.
Okay, so the Regency Club is different than the Regency Hotel.
That is correct.
Okay.
Let me tell you about the Regency Club. It is a magical place where we, well, first of all, can trace the origins of Canasta in the United States. It does still exist. It's a private club, membership only, as I said, located on East 67th Street, where the building has existed since 1904. The club has existed since 1936. In 1964, the Regency Club merged with the Whist Club to become the Regency Whist Club. And the stated purpose of the club on the bylaws says, the purpose and objectives of such new corporation shall be to A, promote social and literary contacts between men and women, and B, to promote the practice and development of the game of contract bridge and promulgate or join in the promulgation of laws applicable to contract bridge. Really just bridge, but the official name is contract bridge. So, by the way, of course, I had to look up I could get the meaning of promulgate from inference in that sentence, but I looked it up anyway. It means to promote or make widely known an idea or cause. So the purpose, literally, the purpose of the Regency Club was to promote bridge, the card game. So now I ask you to reflect back. Imagine the scandal it was when Canasta showed up and started being played at the Regency Club instead of bridge.
There was some meetings, some fist shaking.
I would like to see a scene inside the Regency Club in the year 1947, okay?
Well,
I want this scene to be full of Easter eggs for us nerdy card players, please.
I'm telling you, Oscar bait. I'm telling you.
I am telling you. Can't you just see the bridge players saying, no, this is not our game. This is not what I signed up for.
Because this beautiful building still stands. They could shoot it on location.
That's right, Suze. That's right. They really can. And I think that as long as the movie ends up being pro bridge in some way, they might be for it. But I'm positive they were there. Like, you can't just let any game come in here and take over our beloved bridge club. It's sacrilege. It's scandal. So I have to wonder for real how all those bridge players felt when their game was just left behind. I don't think they took it lightly. I don't think they were going to stand for it, honestly. So it should come as no surprise that a famous bridge player would be involved in the demise of Canasta and how it went out of fashion.
Oh.
Apparently, the frenzy to make money off this card game craze meant that you had famous card players, specifically bridge players, who most likely all played at the Regency Club, and various entrepreneurs putting out books of rules and products like card trays and drink holders and a pen with a little scroll inside of it where you could check the rules when you needed to. I found all these things on eBay, by the way. You know I need them in my life. Anything and everything that they could sell in order to capitalize on the popularity of the game was in production, and people were making money off of it. Remember our famous card player named Eli Culbertson?
Yes.
Eli put a card shuffling machine into production because, you see, with two decks, it can be difficult to shuffle the cards for Canasta.
Unwieldy, I would think.
Unwieldy. So he sees a chance to make big money, and he puts this product into production. However, before that card shuffler can make it to market, the collective feelings about Canasta were changing. The tide had begun to turn. And particularly when card makers put out versions of Canasta for children, well, that is where serious card players drew the line. I mean, if children can play it, it must not be sophisticated and smart enough of a game. So here we have Fancy Pants Eli Culbertson trying to make a buck off the game, but he's a step too late. Mrs. Audley Riley and Oswald Jacoby had both beaten him to market and gotten rule books out sooner than his. Their books sold out and outsold his by far. And then to add insult to injury, the National Canasta Laws Commission was formed, and they did not elect Eli as captain. So Eli, I don't know, these are some sour grapes. Seeing that the tide is beginning to turn, he sees an opportunity to squash the game once and for all, despite the fact that his very own card shuffling machine was about to go on sale next week. He wrote a piece for the New York Times declaring the end of Canasta.
Why would he do that? That's like cutting off your nose to spite your face.
I think it goes back to how badly he wanted a return to bridge. Bridge being the card game that he was a champion at. Bridge, and these Canasta people had snubbed him. In the Maclean's article, they say, in his Canasta obituary, Culbertson blamed the demise on Canasta itself, an easy on the brain type of game. He said, Canasta is to bridge what checkers is to chess, or what a popular tune is to Bach. He declared that the outer fringe of players who abandoned bridge for Canasta because it was too complicated are now flocking back to bridge because Canasta is too simple and therefore boring. The article goes on, to sociologists, the Canasta contagion demonstrated an interesting social progression. It originated with peasants, was taken up by provincial society, then the international set, and then at the end spread back to Pa and Ma Kettle. Perhaps 20 million players were subjected to Canasta at its peak. Where are they now? Unfortunately, no comprehensive study was made, and the opportunity to count them has been permanently lost. Well, here we are, Suze. I'm here to be counted. I've got my hand in the air. I'm raising my hand. I mean, we are here. We are queer. Well, technically the word rummy meant queer, but since Canasta is a spinoff of rummy, can I say that? Can I get away with that?
I don't know, Laura.
And ready to
You're
be counted.
You're going to get so canceled.
We're here. And I'm here to attest that Canasta survived.
Canasta is alive and well.
And could not be kept down. There's room for more than one game in this world, bridge clubbers.
Of course there is.
Now, Suze, here's where I have to make an awkward confession. Trust me when I say I did not know about all this when I was choosing the name for my production company. But full disclosure, as I think we've mentioned before, I started a production company years ago and called it Bridge Club Productions. I don't play bridge, but I thought it sounded better than Canasta Club, which kind of sounds like a bubbling beverage or something, like a champagne
Canasta
cocktail.
Club.
Yeah, right? Sort of like a club soda, something. I don't know. I just like the idea of a group of old ladies.
Canasta Club would be a good drink name.
Canasta Club. Let's make one. I mean, if we drank.
Or somebody make one. Great.
Someone make one, please. I just like the idea of a group of old ladies. And when I say old ladies, I mean comprised of any and all genders, by the way, like the Golden Girls, coming together on a weekly basis for fun, for laughter, some hearty but healthy competition. And so I went with Bridge Club, because it gave me that feeling. But had I known that bridge players had done all they could to kill the game of Canasta, I might not have considered it a viable name. Just so you know. So you know. Now,
what do you make of it as you're changing the name of your LLC?
Not yet, but I'm thinking about it. Here's a few more fun tidbits about Canasta. In the height of the Canasta craze, according to the Games Journal, Newsweek reported that Canasta now rivaled Monopoly and Mahjong, the two biggest games of all time. Time magazine noted it had spread across the entire hemisphere. Fortune magazine recorded that Canasta books and card deck sales were breaking all prior records. Life featured a cover story about the game and published its rules inside. The New York Times magazine covered the game several times over the course of 5 years. And according to Wikipedia, Canasta is also referenced in various works of art and pop culture, such as in the J.D. Salinger novel, The Catcher in the Rye. Holden Caulfield says, "Listen," I said, "do you feel like playing a little Canasta?" He was a Canasta fiend. In the James Bond novel, Goldfinger, Bond finds the villain, Goldfinger, cheating at Canasta with the help of a Confederate who spies on the game from a hotel room balcony and feeds him information via radio. David Bowie refers to this card game in his song, Lady Grinning Soul. She'll drive a Beetle car and beat you down at Cool Canasta. Lucy Ricardo and Ethel Mertz play Canasta in a few episodes of the classic sitcom I Love Lucy. All of that is so awesome, and you can see how it really permeated the culture.
Yeah.
But also, according to Wikipedia, the expression "as dead as Canasta" refers to the transient nature of this popular interest in the game in the U.S. So was it a flash in the pan? Was it too hot, too fast? Did Canasta commit the crime of outshining bridge? That's what I think. The crime of outshining was at play here.
Oh.
Those bridge players were not going to go down without a fight.
You know, it's so funny because earlier when I said, "Are you really good at it?" or whatever I asked, and you got all flustered, I was like, "Oh, you're afraid of the crime of outshining. You're afraid of like saying it."
I mean, I won't say it.
Themes.
You know, I think my work speaks for itself, Suze.
Okay. I think themes are emerging in this episode of the Sparkfile podcast.
I think Canasta did, like, it was a threat to bridge. I told Wes this story, and he was like, "Yeah. Think of the Beatles. the Beatles, like international fame and success and incredible music. And then the Monkees come along. They got on television. All of a sudden, it's all about the Monkees. But no. The Beatles were not going to lie down and take that. They gave the old smackdown to the Monkees. And who do we remember now, huh? The Beatles. Same with Bridge.
Did they give the smackdown to the Monkees?
I mean,
are you really stretching this metaphor?
It's a loose analogy. I think any sort of music historian would say, though, the Monkees were not necessarily about their musicality and their, strength.
Oh, yeah. They were an arranged marriage. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's not good to compare Canasta to the Monkees, but
or do.
They got the smackdown. Canasta got the smackdown. And so it sort of went silent for how many years? 50 years or more.
Did it? Or did it just go underground?
Or did it go underground? And we have a little bit of shame about playing Canasta. Like, it's not cool. It's an old ladies game. What do we make of all this, Suze? Well, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Big success means big resistance. So I think about this all the time. Like that whole, like, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Canasta just didn't make it. Like, these types of battles to me are fascinating. It's kind of culture wars, like nothing is really as simple as it seems. A game doesn't just come out of nowhere and everyone steps aside and says, all hail the new favorite game. There's resistance. There's money-making opportunity. There's an investment in one side winning or losing, always. And so I'm a nerd, and therefore I like to think of these things in terms of storytelling. What does our hero want? Who might be resistant to it and why? There's so many reasons why someone might not want your hero to succeed. And I mean, in this case, it really is. Think of like the bridge clubs that existed all around the country. They have a vested interest in their freaking bridge club existing.
Yeah.
And Canasta's coming along and threatening it. So I don't know. I still do want to see a scene inside the Regency Club battling it out between Bridge and Canasta, first of all.
Yeah.
But the history of these card games makes me laugh. Like, Bridge took over from Whist, and then Canasta had a brief reign over Bridge. But when you think about these tales, Suze, like the Queen's Gambit, that show proved that you can make a story about a game that takes place primarily in your head, really interesting and really action-packed.
And make it visual and actionable.
That's right. And like we said before, like maybe a Christopher Guest-esque comedy about a Canasta tournament. Maybe I need to write that one. I mean, the people who take it very seriously, myself included. I mean, really, there could be some funny characters. But this whole thing made me think of other games that don't get played anymore. Like so many that had like a popular moment in history, plus with the Olympics coming up. Like, what's the story with some of the events that no longer happen? Did you know we used to have a swimming obstacle race in the Olympics?
No.
Like an obstacle course for
underwater
swimmers.
Obstacle course.
You had to climb over a pole, swim under a row of boats, climb over a boat, etc. I mean, a real crowd pleaser, Suze. Which is so funny
tough
because
visuals.
like we didn't have cameras underwater. So that does seem like a tough thing to sell. Yeah. Tug of war also
and
used
to judge. Tough to judge if you can't
right?
see very easily. Yeah.
You don't know what's happening underwater. Tug of war used to be a sport at the Olympics. That one goes all the way back to ancient Rome.
Oh, wow.
Why did we cut it in 1920? Who knows? And Suze, falling into the category of things I literally have never heard one peep about in my entire life. Did you know the Olympics used to have an arts competition? Is this new to you? According to topendsports.com, beginning at Stockholm in 1912, the Olympics included an arts competition. All of the entered works had to be inspired by sport and had to be original and not previously published. Medals were awarded in 5 categories: architecture, literature, music, painting, and sculpture.
Really?
As medals were awarded in 5 categories, the competitions were also named the Pentathlon of the Muses. This event was held, Susan, from 1912 to 1948. Why have we never heard of an Olympic gold medalist in the arts, or a song that won the Olympic gold medal, or a painting. I mean, for real, I think there's some stories to be told there. There may even be an interesting story about a person who competed both as an athlete and as an artist. There are apparently only a couple of people in the history of the Olympics who succeeded in both areas.
Really?
Yes. Walter Wyans is one of them. He won a gold medal in the shooting competition in 1908, and then a gold medal for his sculpture titled An American Trotter in 1912.
Oh my God.
And a Hungarian named Alfred Hajos, who won 2 gold medals at the 1896 Athens Olympics in swimming, and then 28 years later won silver in architecture for his stadium design. I mean, what
the fuck?
What is the story there? I'm serious about the arts at the Olympics being a spark. It's not like it was a 1-year thing. It went on for like 30 some years.
I've never heard that before.
So I don't know. There's so many sparks to me in like games we no longer play, arts no longer being. I mean, I did read a little about why the arts are not a competition in the Olympics anymore. And it's because, you can't be a professional to enter the Olympics.
Oh, so the quality might be.
So, or like professionals wanted to enter the Olympics, but couldn't. And they transitioned this into sort of like an arts. I think what I understood it to be like, that is why we often see like big art spectacles like to open the Olympics.
That's what I was thinking. It seems like they flowed all that energy into big televised and even pre-televised openings.
Yeah. But so there's so many sparks in things that like we just haven't heard about. So I love it personally when I see a story about, like when I see a film or a story about something that I literally have never heard about.
That is crazy. Can I ask you a few questions?
Well, no, I just wanted to say, like, for what it's worth, I don't really care that America tossed Canasta aside, that they chewed it up and spit it out personally. Like, I love the game of Canasta. I'm thankful for my friend Tim introducing it to me and those friends who come together in the spirit of game playing. Florence Osborne said, cards are one means of bridging differences in age and habits, drawing children and parents, old and new friends together in fair and friendly competition. And I definitely feel that. Like this past week, playing cards with my nieces and nephews, cousins, aunts, uncles of all ages from all over the country, as different in background, profession, geography, socioeconomics as can be. And every one of us with the exact same odds of picking up the pile and running away with the game. I love it.
Laura, that is so fun. And I love the way that clearly it makes you feel. That's a great thing to know about yourself, that it brings you, I haven't seen you this.
It's fun.
It's so great. Here's a question that I have for you.
Yeah.
On two occasions, you said that it was a game that was started by peasants, but wasn't it created by this lawyer?
But I think they're referring to like Rummy, the
source
origin.
games.
Yeah.
The source sparks. Got it. And did you say, does Wes play?
I've taught him, like at the lake, I taught him a little bit, but he only played a little. No, so
it's
no.
Not his thing.
It's not his thing, although I remain hopeful.
I would like you to teach me to play.
Suze,
and I will tell you, I probably will never advance past being just like a slow baby crawl, but
oh my God,
I think it'd be fun.
That brings me so much joy. And I imagine card games. Who wants to play with us? I mean, really.
When you and Wes come up to visit,
yes.
We'll force them to. And I don't know. Nathan knows a lot more about cards, so he might know.
He might be like, I could play that game in my sleep. Honestly.
Let's do this shit.
I love it. That brings me joy, Suze. Thanks.
Good spark, Cammie. That was so freaking fun.
It's kind of dorky, but fun. And
I know. I just think it's so good. It's
it.
like the perfect light summertime spark. I don't drink, but it's like a light
spritzer.
rosé. That's right. It's like a Canasta Club. Somebody should make that
A
drink
Canasta
because
Club.
you know what? We'll make the drink.
We'll make the drink.
You'll teach us how to play and we'll make a drink called the Canasta Club.
Okay.
And it will have a club soda base in it. And
Yep.
it can either be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Yep.
Maybe we'll use some fresh mint from the mountain and we'll make a Canasta Club.
It's coming together. It's really coming together. Thank you, Suze.
Hot sparks coming through.
I love your willingness. Thank you.
I'm so into it. It seems so fun. And I'm like, if it makes you that happy and giggly and nuts, I'm all for it. I want to all have what she's having.
Love it.
I think that's it.
is.
What? That was so fun. This episode of the Spark File was made on Muncie, Lenape, and Seminole land. And as always, we do hope this put another bunch of sparks in your file. Hey, listen, if there's a spark you'd like us to explore, or if you've taken a spark and fanned it into a creative flame and you'd like to share that, you should email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com or submit it through our website, thesparkfile.com.
We will even take your feedback, but you know the price of admission. First, please share a creative risk that you've taken recently.
And you can follow us on social media at The Spark File. And you know what? If you could, do us a solid, subscribe, rate, 5-star review this podcast. It really, really helps other listeners find us, especially the subscribing. So go on and do it.
Mhm.
And if you liked this podcast, we hope you will share it with people that you love. And if you didn't like it, we bear you no ill will.
We really don't. We really don't.
I feel like last time I was wishing panic attacks on people. And I just wanted to balance that out.
Yeah, we take it back. Yeah. We're not for everyone. We know it. It's okay. Yeah. But if something tickles your fancy.
No, but seriously, we wish you panic attacks. I'm just kidding. We bear you no ill will.
For real. We really don't. We really don't. For reals. If something tickles your fancy or gets your creative juices flowing, we are writing, whether you like us or not, we are still writing you a forever permission slip to make that thing that you have been dreaming of making. It's your turn to take a spark and fan it into a flame.
You got to take it
and make it.
Make it.
Bye. Bye. Let's play some cards.
Yeah.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.